All right. I'm going to give it one more minute and then we'll get started. So, hey, that truckers convoy, I tell you what, those videos today, I have been in tears probably 5 times today. Just so overwhelmed with, just blows my mind.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying watching those as well. And then I heard today that Fancy Socks decided he had COVID and he was not going to be available.
He doesn't have COVID. He tested negative, but he was in contact. So he's going to isolate for 5 days. Good thing he took that jab to protect him. Hi, Natasha and Ginger.
Hello, everyone. They just passed through here last night.
They just passed through town.
Yeah, it was very, very exciting. A lot of trucks. It was very special. A lot of people on the street cheering, so much support. It's not in the news.
I know.
It was very magical, and I feel very blessed and very lucky. And my energy was just rising up, coming out my heart chakra. I've had no sleep, but I really wanted to come. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you for coming.
I'm sorry just to butt in. I was just so excited about the trucks. And Malcolm, do you want to show your sign that you made there?
Yeah. And they're encouraging everybody to go to the border crossings too. Yes, on the 29th.
I actually heard today that the International Falls, Minnesota truck crossing into Fort Francis, Ontario, which is like where a huge portion of my family lives, is like 45 kilometers long of trucks waiting at the border to come across into Canada. Isn't that?
That's a great sign.
Say, be free. He made this slogan by himself.
I love it. And it looks like flag.
And Malcolm wanted to share, we were very lucky. The first trucker we met was Pat King.
Really?
Out of thousands. And
wow.
I do want to let you all know, like, my feeling from him is that he's very angelic, and some people are portraying him as not so. And I talked to him, and he just has very beautiful energy all around him. Very big heart. Very big heart. Oh, okay.
Can I
can you turn that off, please?
Is this
just before
what I'm looking for? Like they're like echo?
Yes.
Somebody has prices on.
Yeah.
Somebody has what on?
Turn that off.
Somebody has
devices.
and computer on.
Oh.
Me.
Or they've got to open at the same time.
How would you know?
Can you mute my mic, please?
I have an echo.
A second on your desktop or your cell phone would be having this on.
Yeah, no, I've only got.
Yeah, the feedback is terrible.
That's better.
That's better. Yeah, that works.
It's probably me. I'm very north and sometimes the intranet, and I don't know, it's maybe me because it often does that. So I apologize. So I'll just turn my mic off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Saying that if everyone,
that helps.
if everyone mutes themselves, except who's talking, it might.
I have a little
that
board.
solves the problem.
Show and tell if you can.
Let's see. Is the echoing gone for everybody? It is for me.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I think so.
Okay. Well, we'll get started. It's nice to see everybody here. I'm Norma Jean. For those of you who are new here, this is the National Life Force Canada Education Think Tank, and Life Force Canada is more than just education. Our mission is to protect our freedoms and our rights, and we're a platform that's made up of Canadians from coast to coast, and we volunteer our time and our energy And we are working very hard to create the Canadian Restoration Plan, which is an empowered future for all of us. So we work together and collaboratively as a nation, separately as provinces, and individually as counties, but always with the same purpose of creating a restoration plan for a new earth. And we have 9 pillars in Life Force Canada. Education is only one of them. And if you haven't already, I encourage you to join the Life Force Canada team and learn more about the many initiatives that we have going on throughout the country. It's a pretty exciting time. I became the facilitator of this think tank back at the beginning of September because I understand firsthand how broken the current education system can be. Until last summer when I retired, I worked for the public school system in Surrey, BC for nearly 20 years, with my focus being on children with special needs. And I'm also, I work privately also as a behavior interventionist and an Orton Gillingham therapeutic tutors. And on top of that, I have 2 sons who are now grown young men who both struggled and had challenges to be successful in the current school system, even though they're both very bright and creative. They just didn't fit into that one-size-fits-all model. So I've seen and experienced the education system through the eyes of both a mom and an educator. And for me, I found it was lacking from both perspectives. So I think we can agree that we're long overdue to move away from that current and not so great model of education. And this think tank was created to support all of us, whether we're parents or teachers or support staff, or just simply someone who cares about the future of our children. We need to work together to come up with a new vision and share ideas and thoughts. And hopefully in the end, we're going to create something beautiful for our kids. So we actually have quite a few new faces here tonight, which is wonderful. And I'd like to welcome you. It's so great when we get new people that come on board, and we hope you'll come back. There's a reactions button down along the bottom of the screen, and that's where you can raise your hand if you have any questions or comments, as this seems to be the most efficient way for everyone to get an opportunity to talk. So before we get on to our tonight's topic, I would really love to take a minute to welcome all the new people, and maybe if you're not too shy, you could introduce yourself, tell us where you're from and how you heard of us, what brought you here tonight. And Grant, I think you're new. Do you mind going first?
Sure. Actually, I'm here with my wife, Noah, who's right there as well.
Hello.
My wife is a substitute teacher at a private school in Calgary. This has kind of interested me in a little while, for a bit now. I've been watching Life Force Canada and Plan Council Alberta now since probably November of last year. And I'm just trying to figure out where I fit in. And I just kind of wanted to have a look at the education sector in this group, and see if there's something I can do, or maybe something my wife can help out with as well. So that's my story.
Well, we welcome you. Thank you very much for tuning in. Are you a teacher as well, Grant?
No, I'm retired. I was in the oil and gas industry for 40 years. So.
Okay, so I'm sure you know about the energy think tank as well.
Yes, I've been in that one as well.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm glad you came and joined us tonight. So welcome.
Thank you.
Natasha, you're also new, I think.
Hello. I hope it's not going to be too staticky.
It seems okay now.
Okay. What should I say?
Well, where are you from? You said you're from the north.
I'm from just north of Thunder Bay, and I have been involved in Plan Council here as part of the health and wellness and education teams. We've actually just started the education team. I put together a group of people a few weeks ago, and then I heard about this, so I thought I should come and see what we're doing all across Canada before we get into it. I've been a teacher for 22 years, but my passion is sound healing, the forest, and breath work. And I'm supposed to help develop the new education knowledge. Words are not working for me anymore. I want to say system, but that's not the word. Center, school, there's a different word. I also speak another language that's not English, and sometimes I want to say those words. So because I really feel like the reason why I'm into sound, because that's like the foundation of everything. So part of my daughter's here right now. You can say quick hi. So part of my purpose is to help build a new creation of knowledge for all children, beings, adults, as a collective, to work together. And I see it being much different than our current system. I did work for the public board for many, many years. I did teach in Calgary, up north, in Australia, in a few other places around the world. And then I resigned about 10 years ago from the system. And I created Roots and Branches Forest School, where I developed, I don't even like the word curriculum, but I developed a place where we teach, all the things I'm sure everyone here already does. Plant medicine, how to be in the forest, self-awareness, meditation, all of these things to become holistic selves. So the big thing is that there's no separation between wellness and education. It's all integrated and integrated into community. So even to get away from the word teacher, well, we're all teachers. Our neighbors are teachers. And I might just be, preaching to the choir here, but yeah, so I'm here. I'm really excited to get to know everybody and see where they're at and how I can contribute. I have a lot to share, and I also have had some very big visions that I'm supposed to create an educational healing center that my children are playing with the lights. That incorporates a school, and that people are going to come from all over Canada to contribute to that, and also all over the world, because people are going to need healing and education, not only with children, but also with adults. And I don't exactly know how that works, but I see everything. I see it very clearly in pieces, but I don't know how to put it all together. So I think that's what I'll share to sum up. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming, Natasha. That's an amazing story, and we're really happy to have you, as is your council, I'm sure, as well. You're right. Everything you were speaking of is stuff that we've discussed as well, and we are all teachers or educators to each other. And do you know about our education portal that we just launched? Okay, so it's a database-backed website that Marianne designed that allows parents to connect with other parents and educators and find resources, because so many are leaving the public school system, right? And also for educators to offer their services on there. So it's just a way of to help people connect and form pods and alternative education. Anyways, I'll make sure that the link goes into the chat so that you can have a look at it. So thanks for coming. We appreciate you here. V, I think you're new too, are you not?
Hi, yeah. Nice to meet you. I've been taste testing the groups this week, starting in Quebec. I'm from north of Montreal in the Laurentians in Quebec. I really wanted to jump on what was your name? Natasha, what you just said about you have a vision of what's to come, and you know, I had a vision of you having having a vision of what's to come, and it seems like it's just a matter of you pointing it out when you notice that, like, yeah, that's it, you know? So anyways, I wanted to offer that to what you said and add that. Yeah, so I've been taste testing this week, and I'm taking some notes, trying to see what's happening in Canada. This is for a friend as well who is in the Outaouais region of Quebec. Is there anyone in Quebec here right now? I recognize DK Finn. Yeah, okay, from Tuesday's meeting. Awesome. Yeah, so I'm just getting to know the group, and alternative education is really it's part of my interest as well, as a 27-year-old who is still discovering my place in the world and trying to stay close to my heart and who I am in my exchanges with people. So that's where I'm coming from. I was having my camera off for a while because my eyes are a little bit puffy from some emotional releases earlier tonight, but I'm really happy to be here. And I've loved all the meetings so far from Life Force this week. So thank you for holding this space.
Thank you for coming. We're happy to have you. I love that we have everybody's on the same page, so that's great. So let me see, we have a couple more people too. Armando, it's so nice for you to have made it. We're just kind of doing introductions for anybody that's new to the group, and just saying where we're from and what brought us here tonight. And if you'd like to say a few words.
Sure. Hi. Yeah, I just got in from work, and so I was in a bit of a rush. But yeah, I'm glad to have made it. I'm in Esquimalt in Victoria, and I am, well, I guess I'm a former teacher. I'm not teaching this year. I was an EA last year at a Montessori school. I've had various experiences with self-directed learning and Montessori and Waldorf education. So Vee was talking about alternative educations, and that's really where I've been drawn in my career, is towards anything that's not public system, I guess. Just the opportunities for children feel to me to be more, there feels to me to be more opportunities for kids in a lot of the alternative settings that are offered, that are available. And yeah, I'm excited to be part of this think tank. Norma Jean invited me earlier in the week, and yeah, to just come together. There's so many people have so many different experiences, and as we share those together, I feel like I'm going to be inspired a lot through this group. So I hope I can contribute in some way. Happy to be here.
Thank you. I know you will. We've had a couple good conversations, so I'm happy that you were able to make it. And this, you found your peeps, I think, here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Melody, have you been here before? I'm good with faces, not as good with names.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. Yes, you interviewed my son last week, Dylan.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Of course. Yeah, I didn't interview your son, but Dylan, right?
Yeah. Karen.
Oh, I'm so glad you could make it. Yeah, that was nice of Karen to share your email. So Melody's son, for anybody that wasn't on the national call, that would have been not this Monday, but last Monday, her son came on. He was a guest speaker. He is 16. They live in Alberta. He's homeschooling, and he was just telling us, sharing his experience of what it's been like to withdraw from public school, and how it's affected his friendships, and what it's like being awake when all your friends are not. And anyways, it was quite a powerful meeting, and I'm looking forward to talking with you both more. So thank you so much for coming this evening.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I guess I did your introduction. Would you like to add to that? You could say where you're from, and I know what you do, but I'll let you say. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. No, I'm from Calgary. I also work in the education system, or I used to. I've been put on leave of absence with the Calgary Board of Education. And I also drive kids too. So I also drive school bus too. So I'm still doing that, thankfully, not with the Calgary Board anymore. So yeah, and I've got extensive background in so many different things. We'd be here all night if I had to list them all. So, but yeah, that's me.
Well, thank you very much for coming. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Deborah B, are you new? I'm so bad when I don't see faces.
It's Deidre.
Deidre, sorry.
I am new. I'm party crashing from California.
We like parties.
I am a retired teacher. I went back to school to take clinical psychology from the development from birth to death, and how our brains and our bodies develop throughout our lives. We are at California Assembly. We are working on the educational redevelopment. And so I told them I would pop in and see what, if you guys had any great ideas, because I feel that all of us around the world should share our beautiful knowledge that.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you so much for coming. Were you weren't on the call when I was talking about the portal that we just launched, were you?
Yes, I did. And I got to check it out as soon as I can.
Yeah. Well, thanks for party crashing. We're happy to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Marianne, would you like to introduce our guest tonight? We're very excited.
Oh, certainly. Well, welcome everyone. It's great to see such a wide variety of people and party crashers as well. That's fun. I'm very pleased to introduce our guest speaker tonight, David Andrews. And I had a wonderful talk with him just the other day, and he really impressed me with his wealth of knowledge, his depth of knowledge, and 25 years of experience teaching. And his story about how he fell into becoming an educator is fascinating as well, and he tells it beautifully. So I will let him explain that in just a minute. What I've asked him to speak about mostly tonight are the 4 strategies that he shared with me that he has developed and used over the years, and how he was asked to pioneer creating one of the very first communications courses ever offered in Canada, like at the very beginning of that whole communications and communications technology movement, which I think is so fascinating. And he began by teaching grade 9 students, which is an interesting story. So without further ado, I'd like to hand the torch over to David Andrews.
Well, thank you, Marianne. Let me get on gallery view here. So hello, everybody. It's really nice to meet all of you. It's my first time here as well. So the thing I said to Marianne the other day was, how about I take 2 minutes to tell you a little bit about me, and you take 2 minutes to tell me a little bit about you. And so all of you have told me a little bit about you, so now it's my turn. Okay, so I grew up on the East Coast in a small town in Nova Scotia. And my grandparents were Scottish and Irish. So when I was a kid, they all spoke Gaelic. And as many of you will know, that's the language of the dragons, right? So I grew up hearing a lot of that, and with fiddles and bagpipes, and very much Highland culture was kept alive in Nova Scotia. So as a child, I say I grew up in the 18th century. There were fields of sheep. My grandparents had what you might call a subsistence farm. We had a couple of cows and pigs and chickens and a dog and a cat and a horse and a garden and an apple orchard. But when I look back at my childhood, I just have very beautiful memories of the land and of the sea. And I know we could go fishing and get a boatload of fish, like literally in an hour and a half, no problem at all, dry them and whatever. So I just have really nice memories of that period of my life. When I was 16 years old, I went to Toronto to visit my uncle. And it was like the land of Oz. I was never going back to Nova Scotia again. Okay. Why would I leave Toronto to go, be in the countryside on a farm? So anyway, I did go back for a little while and finish high school and stuff. And then I went to Ontario College of Art and Design. So that's kind of my background, visual art, drawing, painting, sculpture, whatever. In those days, it was the beginning of the microelectronic revolution, if some of you are old enough to remember those terms. So I ended up doing a lot of photography and film and video and, electronics, and played with capacitors and resistors and diodes and all of that kind of stuff and hardware. And when I finished there, I got to live in Europe for a year. I lived in Italy for a year. And I got to travel all over Europe and visit, Egypt, and Greece, and Israel, and all those wonderful places. And so when I came home, I went to U of T to do a little, I guess what they call liberal arts, psychology, philosophy, anthropology. And then I ended up working for the National Film Board for a while. And it was still very, as you know, the National Film Board in Canada was created as the propaganda department for the Canadian government. So there was a lot of that, residue still around, but it's an incredible cultural archive, and it's produced some really, really amazing and wonderful work. So I had my own video production company at the time, and I had a contract to produce a couple of documentaries for Vision TV. So I got to go to the Soviet Union, and I won't go into all of that, but it really was a wonderful experience in the late 1989, 1990. And when I came back, I was in Chicago, and I was editing, and I was thinking, I don't want to work in production anymore because it's kind of feast and famine. And I was visiting a friend of mine, Peter. I was sitting in his backyard at a picnic table, and a friend of his who works for the school board in technology education stuck his head out the door because he had a conversation with Peter, and he said he wanted to develop a communications technology program. And Peter said, oh, the guy that can do that's in the backyard. Go talk to him. So he stuck his head out the door, and he just said, hi, my name is Park. I'll give you a call. And I said, sure. Okay. I had no idea. Long story short, I went to Chicago. I was editing, 10 o'clock at night. The phone rings. I pick it up. It's this guy, Park. He said, I'd like to invite you to a job interview. And I said, okay. And I said, oh, Park, yeah, I remember you. Yeah, Peter's friend. Okay, great. I said, well, when is it? And he said, tomorrow morning. I said, I'm in Chicago. He was in Toronto. He said, I know. So I literally got in the car. I drove all night. I went to this interview. I got hired. And 3 days later, I was teaching 3 sections of grade 9s. Welcome to the wonderful world of education. So that was my initiation into education. So it was good. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. I was very, very fascinated by learning and how people learn. And I went to Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. Some of you will know it. I wanted to become a communications technology teacher at the time, and they said, sorry, we don't have that. All we have is photography. And I said, well, gee, I've been taking pictures since I was 8 years old. That's no good for me. And I went home. And 3 days later, the head of the Department of Technology Education came to visit me in my classroom and stayed for 3 days. And he just hung out and watched and observed what I was doing and how I was doing it. And apparently what I was doing was pretty radical and revolutionary, and he hadn't seen anything like that before. I guess because I hadn't been to regular school, so I wasn't indoctrinated in what any other methodologies are. So it was fun. I had a great time, and basically I worked in public education. I did a master's degree in psychology, one in education. Eventually I did principal's papers. For some time I worked for the union as a union exec, and I organized staff development activities for staff. And that was kind of my career. And I retired about 5 years ago, got to travel around Asia and a lot of other places in the world. And now I spend the winters in Mexico, and that's where I am tonight. not too far away from where Marianne is. So the conversation I had with Marianne the other day was about some of the best things, tools, strategies I discovered after 25 years of being in the trenches. So she invited me to share a little bit of that with you tonight, okay? So do you need a stretch break or a glass of water or anything? You guys all okay at this point? So now some of,
psychic.
sorry?
I said I do need water. You're psychic.
Good. Cheers. So one of the tools I discovered along the way is called format. And some of you, because you're in education, you may be familiar with it. You may have had a look at it. You may have tried it. I found it extremely useful. I've used it for, organizing lessons. I've used it for organizing whole courses. I've used it for planning, conferences and big events. I've used it for seminars I've done. So I'll just tell you a little bit about format. The basic concept in format is honor the learner, okay? It's kind of like do no harm, honor the learner. So Dr. Bernice McCarthy and her friend Susan Morris, McCarthy is in Texas, Morris is in Chicago, Morris is in Texas. They worked together. And what they did was they looked at 25 years of literature on learning, okay? To say, what do we know about learning? And essentially what they discovered was that a lot of the researchers were discovering the same things and describing the same phenomena. They were using different descriptors, different language, different charts, different graphs. So they synthesized it all together. And basically what they came up with is there are 4 different types of learners in any given population. So what I'll do right now is I'll just give you a quick sketch of each one. And you might want to listen and self-identify, okay? So they described a type 1 learner as emotional, sensitive, intuitive. They walk into a room and they read the vibes. They can kind of feel people, feel the emotions. They get a sense of who needs a pat on the back or a hug or whatever. And they work in the caring professions. They love to take care of people. Okay, so here's a number 2. Number 2 is a person who likes information. They like to read it for themselves, see it for themselves. They're very concerned about whether there's a period at the end and whether there's a capital and whether there is or isn't a comma. They're very procedural. They like facts and figures and statistics and data and information. That's a type 2 learner. Now, a type 3 learner is 3-dimensional, structural, kinesthetic, experiential, embodied, hands-on, okay? They learn it by doing it, right? And then a type 4 learner is a little more off the wall, a little more eccentric, a little more on the outer fringes. Type 4 learners like the big picture. They like the relationship between things and the connection between things. They're infinitely creative and innovative, like that, on the drop of a hat. So what Susan Morris and McCarthy came up with was the cycle of learning. The cycle of learning looks like this. I don't know if you can see that. It's a big circle with 4 quadrants. Type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, okay? Now, the most important question for a type 1 is why. You've had children, they go through a why stage. Why this? Why that? And they want all the whys answered, okay? Number 2s, they want to know what. Like if you're a teacher, you'll have students that will say, is this going to be on the exam, sir? Like they want the information. They want to know what. They want to pass. They want to make a good mark. They want to excel. Okay, they want to get it right, want to get it correct. They'll fight you to make sure that they're right and you're not. Those are the type 2s. And 3s like to build things, do things, make things, fix things, take things apart, put things together. They're architects, they're mechanics, but they're Okay, and obviously the 4s are the artists and the creators and the innovators. Okay, so there's your 4 types. So the first question is why, the second question is what. Number 3 always wants to know how to make it, how to fix it, how to build it, how to repair it, how to design it, how to lay it out, okay? So it's very much how to, and the knowledge is very procedural, okay? And what if is, okay, so now that I know this, what can I do with it? What if I try it this way? What if I try it that way? What if I flip it over? What if I connect it with that? What if I try it in this context? Okay, so they live in what if and they live in possibility. So those are your 4 types. So ideally, as an educator or as a designer of instruction, you want to honor the learner. So you have to honor all 4 types because they're all in front of you every day in your room, right? So you want to be able to start with the whys because if you ask a question, the whys will be the first one to put up their hand and engage. And if you start with why and you say, why are we learning this? Like here, why are we talking about format? Why do we care? Why does it matter? Why do we want to know this stuff? And then you go to what, and in what, it's like, what's the definition? What's the meaning? What's the term? So it's all of that kind of knowledge. And it's important. So very simply, if you take any concept and you break it down into why, what, how to, and what if, you got a curriculum. So if you're not an educator and you're an at-home mom and you want to figure out, you know, how am I going to teach my kid this stuff? This is just a tool that's easy to learn. And, you know, it has many layers. I can do a whole seminar on this thing, but it just gives you a way to, you know, you say, okay, what are the essential concepts that we need to learn here, right? And then you break the concept down into those 4 steps or stages. Why do we need to know this? What do we need to know? How does it work? And, you know, what if? What can we do with it? How can we apply it? How can we use it? So teacher is teaching in quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. And in quadrant 3, you're doing application. You know, that's your modules, your 3D stuff, your hands-on, your experiential, but trying and applying in stage 3. And then what if they're synthesizing whatever they've learned and they're connecting it with whatever they already know, right? And they're projecting it into their life, their situation, their context, their future. Okay? So that's enough on format. Cut? Okay. And you can sit down with a napkin and design a lesson. So you just, like in quadrant 1, you'd put all your whys in here and all your what's down here and all your how-tos over here and all your what-ifs over here. And now you have the complete cycle of learner. And because you've honored all the learners in the room, everyone's happy because they feel like, wow, I got something out of that. It wasn't all quadrant 2 or it wasn't all quadrant 4, right? Yeah. Marlene, where are you? Should I continue, go to the next one? You want to break here? You want to pause? How do you want to proceed?
Great idea. Why don't we ask if there's any questions about that, and then we'll continue on to the next one.
And we'll just limit it to like a few questions in a few minutes. Yeah? I mean, I don't want people to get tired, to get bored.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So does anybody have any burning questions? We'll take 2.
That was one.
All right, I think we're good to go.
Oh, go ahead, V. Fire it up.
This is so cool. I just took a bunch of notes, and I just want to say that I relate to type 4 so much that even one of my many like trial names on social media is what if. That's the question of type 4 that I associate with.
Well, thank you for sharing
Thanks
that.
so
There are
much.
what-ifers in every crowd. Okay.
Yeah.
They're in every classroom. They're in every audience. You know? Yeah.
I love this. Thank you so much for your story and all of this information. Thank you.
Okay, great. And there's a lot more to it, but tonight we're just doing a quick intro. So next, one more. Anybody else? Comment or question?
Sure. As you're going through the different quadrants there and describing the different kinds of learners,
yes,
it seemed to me
yeah.
that I'm more than just one kind of learner, because
Okay.
I thought I was almost like 4, and then I thought maybe I'm not 2, but it did seem as though I was more than one.
Okay, so which 2 would you pick?
I'm not sure. I was going to go 1, 3, and 4.
Okay, you know, it's entirely possible. Like I have a test and a grid, and there's a whole other, you know, sort of way to evaluate it and measure it, and in that circle, you know, you might, let's see if I can get some way to show you this. You might get a shape that looks like this. Okay, can you see that? Where
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and that would tell you that, you know, you're mostly in quadrant 1 or a little bit in quadrant 2, but we have a way of sort of testing all of that, and you get a sense of where you are on the learning style grid. Where this works really fun is in relationships, because quite often you'll find one person in the relationship is a type 4, and they're very possibility oriented and seeking hidden meaning, but they'll end up with a partner that's a type 2. Who's very logical and sequential and procedural and step by step and cross the T's and dot the I's. Between the 2 of them, they make a whole brain. Okay. Anyway, okay, so enough on format. Let's go to the next topic. Should we go to MI, Marlene? Yep. Okay, so for a long time, human beings all over the world have been interested in intelligence. And way back in Paris in the 1890s, there was a great researcher by the name of Alfred Binet, and he was very interested in, you know, the kids coming into the Sorbonne and whether they were going to pass or fail or what they were likely to do, and their parents were curious. And he developed a series of tests that evaluated 2 intelligences. You may have learned this if you went to teachers college or whatever they call it nowadays. And basically they were, they became the standard measure of intelligence for the whole world. Governments all over the world use them, big corporations. IBM used them for 72 years. And they evaluated linguistic intelligence and mathematical intelligence. And that's why they are compulsory subjects in school 100 years later. Math, and you gotta take math and gotta take English, right? Or French or Spanish or whatever it is. Now, Howard Gardner taught at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and he also taught at Harvard across the river, both in Boston. And Howard Gardner kind of took issue with this mapping or this conceptualization of intelligence, okay? So he had a big laboratory, and he surrounded himself in this laboratory with idiot savants. And that's a fancy French name for people who are highly gifted in a particular domain of intelligence and very challenged in other areas of intelligence. Now, some of you are, you know, around as ripe as I am, so you may remember an old movie called Rain Man. Yeah, and Hoffman, I believe it was, yeah, Hoffman played an idiot savant in that movie, and he was highly gifted in mathematical intelligence, right? He could remember the numbers in the phone book, and he could look at a pile of matches and know how many were in the pile, and he just had this superior mathematical intelligence. But, you know, he couldn't tie his shoes or feed himself, and he had other kinds of challenges. So Howard Gardner was fascinated by these people. So he surrounded himself with them and studied them for 10 years. And he documented all of his research in a great book called Frames of Mind, okay? And at the end of 10 years of research, what he identified is that human beings manifest 9 intelligences. 9, not 2, 9. So he added 7 more to the mix, which is really fabulous. Okay, so we got Musical, what do we say? We had math and language. So he added music. So you would agree, you would agree, music is an intelligence. How many of you here are great at music? You pick up a song, you pick up an instrument, you can run with it. And how many of you are, oh my God, please don't ask me to sing, I can't carry a note in a bucket. You don't want to tell me, right? Thank you, Simon. Okay. So, and like, I would do this in my classroom. I'd say, you know, who's really great at math? And there'd always be like 3, maybe 4 kids who would jump up. Yeah, me, sir, me, sir. And I'd say, okay, now who sucks at math? And they'd all start giggling and squealing and laughing because they knew who they were, okay? So linguistics is obviously one, math is one, music's one, visual spatial, you know? Some of you have a wife or a husband that can just pack that trunk when you're going on vacation and you're amazed at what they can get in that trunk. And some people just have this natural spatial ability to take things apart and put things together. And, you know, some mechanics can just pick the engine up in their mind and they can see all the parts and pistons and pieces, you know, moving. And that's a visual spatial intelligence. Some of us are really good at it and some of us are not. And another one that's very popular nowadays is the kinesthetic intelligence. That's the sport intelligence, right? All kids go through this phase where they want to be a tennis player or a badminton player, or they want to go to the Olympics, or they're going to play hockey, and they take mom shopping and mom buys them all the gear, right? So, you know, and as grade 9ers and grade 10ers and grade 11ers, they struggle with this identity of, you know, who am I going to be when I grow up? And, you know, they go shopping and get all the gear that goes with whatever the identity fantasy is for the week or the month or the season. But the sport intelligence, some of us are really great at it, and some people really struggle. You know, and dance is included in that. Like some people just have a natural ability to dance, you know, and some do not. But so that's another one. And one is the naturalistic intelligence. Like, I'll give you an example. I went fishing, lobster fishing. I met the lobster fisherman at 4 o'clock in the morning. And we sailed out on this ocean. It was as smooth as glass. And the sun rose up out of the ocean and it turned gold. And it was incredibly beautiful. And he would be pulling these lobster traps up. And he would look at the lobster and he would put it in a pile. Look at another one, put it in a pile. He'd take it out of the trap, he'd flip it over, he'd look at this one and he'd throw it back in. And every now and then he'd throw another one back in. And I'm like, why is he doing that? Like, that's a nice, big, healthy lobster. Why would he throw that back in the water? So finally I said, okay, all right. Why do you throw that one back in? He says, well, Sonny, that's a female. And if I don't throw that one back in, I'm not going to have any lobster next year. Okay. Now, but it's about this harmony with nature. And some people have it. Okay. They're totally connected. They can read it. They can feel it. They sense the vibes. It's called a naturalistic intelligence. And in a sense, it's our first intelligence. You know, we had to learn how to fish and we learned to farm and to hunt, to feed ourselves and take care of ourselves. And you can go all the way to the David Suzuki's of the world who've taken that intelligence and, you know, manifested at a very, very high degree. So that's the naturalistic. Now, another one is interpersonal, okay? And some of us have great interpersonal intelligence. Other people, you say, you know, he's a great mathematician, but man, he's got no people skills whatsoever. I mean, you hear these things, okay?
Some it depends on our cycle, where we're at with our hormones.
Yeah, you know, and the next one is the intrapersonal. Like some people, they do yoga and they do meditation and they do breathing, and there's this connection between their head and their heart and their body and their mind. And, you know, they live as this kind of unified being, and they can read it in others, they can see it in others, they can sense it in others. So, you know, it's this, just this intrapersonal awareness. Right, James? Okay. So the last one is the spiritual intelligence, okay? And some people are very inspired and excited about that and studying and reading and learning. I've spent a lot of time in that one myself and I'm fascinated by it. So anyway, so what Howard Gardner did was he remapped intelligence for us, okay? And so as an educator, whether you're a homeschooler or you got a PhD, whatever it is, you will, for me, it was about having my students identify an intelligence profile. So you might have 2 or 3 that you're really good at. And if I were to ask any one of you, out of the 9 I listed, tell me 3 you're good at and 3 you're, pretty bad at, and 3 maybe you're moderate at, okay? So it's like the smart, dumb continuum, the bell curve, like that's just nonsense in the face of this, right? Everyone is intelligent. And everybody has all of these intelligences. The differences are that we will excel at 1 or 2 or 3 of these. And they're innate, like they're like natural gifts, right? Like I was sharing with Marlene, I don't know how many times I've had parents come to me and say, my kid can't do math and his father's a math professor. What am I going to do? Okay. I mean, the kid didn't get the math genes or the math intelligence or the math makeup or whatever you want to call it. So it really frees them when they get a sense that, look, this is what I'm good at and this is what I'm not so good at. And if we work together as a couple or as a team or on a project, we want a couple who excel at this and we want a few who will excel at that. And after a while, they learn to value the diversity of human intelligence. And they learn to use it collectively for the betterment of all, And it's really wonderful for teenagers to just get that, see that, figure that out, be okay with that, and not make themselves small because they're not good at math or not good at music or whatever it is, right? So multiple intelligence theory, and it's called a theory. So it's just a way to remap intelligence. There's lots and lots more information on this topic, but I think I said enough about that one for tonight. So anybody identify, want to share an intelligence, one that they have and one that they don't have? I'm not good at music. I can just listen, that's it. When I was a kid, my grandfather wanted me to learn how to play the accordion. And I was like, no, please, I don't want to do it. So I totally resisted it, okay? And so I, for 50 years, I wouldn't even sing happy birthday. No, I was like, nope, not going there, not doing that, not learning that. But, we all have places where we excel and places where we need a little accompaniment. Anybody want to share or ask a question or whatever?
Joanna?
Yeah. So it's very interesting. I just have a problem with labels. I'm going back to the public school system after being away for 17 years. Mm-hmm. And from what I've seen, because I've just had a short stint and now they have to retrain me. Mm-hmm. Whatever's going to happen will happen. I am so glad I was away from it because I would never label people the way I did before. I'm a special needs teacher in ESL. I've done that all my life. ESL, I've done all my life. But special needs, I just did in the last 17 years. So I think that if you give a child a label, then they live up to that label. So I try really hard with my students not to put them in any box. And then they surprise you. And so I like the way you look at things conceptually, but I really have a problem with labels because I think the medical system labels people so badly.
Yeah.
And so, and psychological testing also does that. Like I teach one student, he is special needs. His mother gave me the whole report. I said, very nice. Now let's, and then we read it. I read it. And then I said, okay, now let's look at him at who he really is. And he's very intelligent. He just doesn't do what they want him to do in the schools, but that's good. So
That's good. It's great that he's got you to support him and help him and guide him and encourage him along.
but you know what he reminds me always when I want to push something on him, then I remember that Harry Chapin song and I go, okay, I'm not going to do it. He'll just go his own way. You know, because I asked him to draw something and I said, what you going to draw? He goes, whatever comes to mind. So I have to let him go wherever he's going. So that's my question to you. So do you think that if we put ourselves in those boxes or those labels, that we live up to those labels? Because, you know, as you think, you become. And so,
well,
okay, there we go.
So I would say once upon a time in public education, we only had two ways of evaluating success or intelligence. We had English and math. And so we made them compulsory, right? That's sort of the history of the system. So when Gardner comes along and expands that whole framework and remaps the territory, it now gives us a whole lot more possibilities, you know, because when I was a kid, many of the people I went to school with, they got that there were 2 or 3 or 4 kids who were really intelligent and the rest were average. And then there were a bunch who were like low life or whatever the terms were, not particularly nice. And so when you're in the system with the bell curve, right? You know how that works. There's only a few up on the top of the bell. It's unfortunately, yes, it labels, and yes, it conceptualizes, and yes, it's a kind of systemic prejudice, you know, built into the system. So we live in a society where people go get jobs, go get credentials, go get qualified in, you know, whatever the choices are. And in most of those places, they need certain kinds of intelligences. And if you can help them, you know, if you can help them develop what they're inspired by, what they're excited about, like if this kid wants to draw, for example, you know, if you just feed him more art, he will develop that visual intelligence. And maybe someday, I don't know, be a great artist, make a living at it, you know, whatever it is. Another question, or should we move on, Marlene? One more, V, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. It's actually just, I want to flip the question back to Joanne. Was that your name? Joanne?
Yeah, that's me.
Sweet. Because that just, it really speaks to me in terms of like our spiritual experience as humans. And, you know, we're so vast, and in some theories we're pure consciousness that reach out to everything. So there's no form, it's everything. But then we incarnate as a specific person, a specific personality that needs to be played out with their specific destiny. So there's like this game of identification and disidentification. So I'd love to hear more and just flip the question back to you with what does it look like to not have a box? In your experience, what have you seen works with your students? Because I think it's equally as relevant as what David is bringing to the table. It's just like the polar opposite, but I'd love to hear your experience about what works for you in those contexts.
To start off with, I'm born in South Africa, so that by definition, everybody's a bit crazy. Like you out of the box, because in order to live there, you have to, in order to survive there as a teacher, you had to think out of the box. I was always involved in informal education and formal. You know, during apartheid, I fought it. And then after that, I was in a formal school. It was very interesting. But this boy, so what I wanted to tell you about this boy, he's marvelous. What does he teach me? I love talking. I talk a lot. But with him, I really have to keep quiet. It's very hard for me, very hard. When he paints, I mean, I do phonics with him and I do math, and I'm not that great at math, but I'm okay at teaching it. But anyway, and he's you know, he's coming along. But when he paints, it's almost like even if he's drawing a square with one color, he gets absorbed into the painting. It's the most unbelievable thing. And I have to keep quiet. And he tells me, he says, keep quiet because I have to concentrate. So I think what I've learned from him, I know it's the most marvelous thing. What I've learned from him is to be in the moment. And then what I normally do is whatever the child is presenting, then we go on that, we go with that. And so I don't want to take away from David just because It is his forum. But yeah, and you're welcome to email me if you want.
That's great. Yeah. That's called a right brain 4.
Oh, I can tell him next week. Are you right brain?
Type 4 right brain.
Thank you. Yeah, and you know what he'll say? He'll find some unbelievable comment that you won't think will come from nowhere, you know? He'll say, okay.
You can't see that. It's backwards, right? Or is it?
No, it's the right way around.
You can read it? Okay, great.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, that's my name, that's my email, that's my number if anybody wants to contact me. Yeah. I just don't want to forget that. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let me tell you, are we going to have time for 2 more, Marlene, or just one? Should we do the Virtuous Curriculum?
Yeah, I really like that one.
Okay.
Let's talk about the
So
virtues.
within the context of spiritual intelligence, I really wanted to make sense of this in my own life because I worked in very multicultural Toronto for a long time. So sitting in front of me were Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, Christians, Zoroastrians, Jews, okay? And so I had all of this religious diversity in front of me. And, you know, we live in a very materialistic civilization, and the focus is on the individual and, you know, what the individual wants. And the nice thing about, you know, corporate capitalism is materialism and individualism, or the excessive individualism, they all kind of fit together. And so, you know, when you look at that, and in public education, there's no reference to we as spiritual entities or possibilities. So for a long time, I struggled with this. And then I found a group of people who had done a lot of work on it. Anyway, I won't go into that. But if you take all of the holy books, you take the Bible, the Quran, the Gita, the Talmud, the Pitakas, and the Upanishads, and you put them all together. If you think about, like, public education is only 150 years old, okay? And prior to public education, which really trained us to work in the factories, that's where the model comes from. Prior to that, most education was for you know, the upper levels of society, and it was conducted by those institutions, you know, the mosque, the synagogue, the church, the temple, okay? So when you look at all the holy books, you find the same thing. They're all constructed of parables. And the parable for 4,000 years has been the vehicle of cultural transmission, the vehicle of, you know, personal and cultural spiritual transformation. So when you deconstruct the parables, there's always, I remember this as a kid from Sunday school, what's the moral of the story, right? So, and when you look at the moral of the story, there's usually a good guy and a bad guy, a right way and a wrong way, do this and don't do that, okay? And when you really summarize the parables, you can summarize them in one word. And that one word is always a virtue. When I say a virtue, I'm distinguishing that from intelligence, okay? Right? So we've all heard the expression, patience is a virtue, okay? And you can learn patience, whether you're Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist, Christian, or Jew. And you can learn patience, whether you're red or yellow or black or white or educated or not, or north or south or east or west. So virtues really are universal human characteristics and potentialities. And the language of virtue is really, really useful when working with younger kids, the smaller ones, okay? And public education has really dropped or sidestepped or avoided or haven't figured out how to do the moral, ethical values education. It's really devoid of that, okay? And the teachers all say the parents should do it, and the parents all say the teachers should do it. And we know there's no dialogue, no conversation, no training in any of that. But if you take, so if I were to ask you to identify virtues, you would say, well, patience, well, kindness, well, sincerity, or loyalty, or honesty, or forgiveness, or mercy, or compassion, or truthfulness, or trustworthiness, you know? And all of those things are valuable in any family. in any relationship, in any society, in any school. So the Virtues Project identified ways and means and strategies for bringing the language of virtue into the classroom, into the curriculum, into the activities, okay? Now, you can say to your child, sit down, or I'll knock you down, or quit crying, or I'll give you something to cry about, or, I mean, there's all kinds of, ways that we abuse children linguistically. Or, you can make a request of your child. I really need you to be patient, or I really need you to be kind, or I really need you to cooperate, okay? And then they get to associate the virtue, the word, the language, the name with the behavior, right? And when you can help them put the word and the behavior together, well, then they know what to do, right? They know how to be quiet, or be patient, or be thoughtful, or be considerate, or to share, okay? And it's really not that difficult. So I've done a ton of work with this over the years, all kinds of projects, and the kids love this. Like, they really love the language of virtue and the idea that they can develop something more than their intelligence. Okay, so I have, let's say, high school kids come to me and they say, hey, Mr. Andrews, can you write me a reference letter? Right? And a reference letter is a character reference letter, okay? So tell me about your character. Are you kind? Are you thoughtful? Do you contribute? Do you volunteer? Do you participate? Like, what are the nice things you do for the people in your family, in your neighborhood, in your community, in your classroom, on your teams, whatever. And you see, I could have two kids with A++ average, right? And one of them is extremely selfish and extremely self-centered, and they want to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, how they want to do it. And there's an opportunity, there's a job or a project, or there's a grant, or something. And I have another kid who has the same intelligence, but he's obviously developed his virtue, right? He's thoughtful, he's kind, he's respect, he's considerate of other people, okay? So which one would I hire? Or which one would I give the project to, right? But it's about having them recognize that it's not just about intelligence, it's about all of those other values. And when kids get both of those, right, they get intelligence and virtue, now you've got something really extraordinary. We all know there are many intelligent people in the world who use their intelligence to hurt other people, for selfish ends, for greed. The last thing we need is more intelligent criminals, okay? And I say, if all you're going to use your intelligence for, right, is criminal activity, it'd be better if you weren't educated, quite frankly. I mean, that's my take on it. So if you take the language of virtue and the process of acknowledgement, and you put those two together, right, now you have a formula, for transforming, growing, developing your population. And, with grade 9s and 10s and 11s, but they love this stuff. Most teachers are never acknowledged for the phenomenal contribution they make, And when you acknowledge another teacher for the work that they do and the difference that they make in the lives of those kids, a lot of the time they bawl their eyes out. Why is that? It's because they are starved for acknowledgement. In the whole system, teachers are starving for acknowledgement. And the language of virtue and acknowledgement, it's just so, so powerful, and it's so useful, and it's so effective. And when kids get that they can choose to develop patience and get better at it, they take it on. And with a little bit of encouragement, they pick it up very quickly. They take to this stuff like a duck to water. So that's a very useful tool. All right, enough on that one?
Yeah. Does anyone, I wrote this in the chat, but my comment is.
Oh, sorry, I don't see that.
Yeah, right.
I don't.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I just mentioned that I used to work at an IB school, and they did have this idea of 9 core values need to be emphasized for each unit you teach, as well as whatever content you're presenting. But somehow it's too formalized and it just flopped. The kids quickly learned, oh, I'll just say that I developed this one, and then they would write a self-reflection that made it seem like they had, you know, grown great depth and character. And no, they hadn't at all. So it's a great idea though. And it's certainly, I think, the core of leadership and developing leaders, our next generation of leaders, and positive contributions to community. So I'm very curious to hear how you managed to bring this out in the students during your coursework.
One of the things I do is I'd sit them in a circle, and I get out my eagle feather, and I'd say, so who would like to give somebody else in the circle a virtuous acknowledgement? And I would say, well, Marlene, I'd like to give you a virtuous acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge you for your creativity and your open-mindedness and your ability, like you were so helpful to me to bring me into this conversation. And I just really, really appreciate it. And I want to thank you. So now I'm going to pass the feather to you, Marlene, and you can give somebody else in the group an acknowledgement. Go ahead, take it up. Do it. Let's try it.
I would like to pass it over to Norma Jean, who is so diplomatic and such a great person to work with on this project, and how much fun it's been to do these think tanks and to try to figure out how to develop the whole education world within LifeForce for Canada. So thank you, Norma Jean.
Thank you, Marianne.
One more. Let's do one more. Go ahead, Norma Jean.
Okay, I'd like to acknowledge James for always being such a source of positive energy and vibration, and always showing up with love and light, and making our think tank a better place.
Okay, now we could go through the whole group and we could do this for an hour and it would be a blast. And if you take your class in high school and you sit them in a circle and you teach them how to do this, and they'll just go with it, right? Just like we just demonstrated right here. Hi, Camila, nice to see you. I just saw you for the first time. Okay.
Hi, David.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, that's that one, and there's a whole lot more on that, and I've done like 7-week courses on this, and you know, training and strategies and a whole bunch of stuff. We can get into it in a lot more detail, but I just want to say the kids love it. Like, they get it, they take it, they run with it, they enjoy it, they have fun with it, and they learn a lot that's really valuable. How's our time? Are we okay? You want to wrap it up? You want to go a little further? What do you think?
DK, did you want, I know you wanted to comment.
Oh, sorry, I missed.
Oh, hey, no problem. Dave, I just had a question. I'm sure if I went to research these, like if I Google them, will I find them, or do you have a particular website that you prefer?
If you Google format, number 4, MAT, you'll find a bunch of stuff. There's 25 years of dissertations and PhDs and research, and there's still people doing all sorts of wonderful stuff with this. Whenever I tried to introduce this at the board, it was always, well, who's going to pay for that? Well, we can't afford that. Well, we don't have money for that. No, for a lot of these things. And with multiple intelligence theory, if you look up Howard Gardner, you'll find his books and you'll find his research, and you'll find, you know, PhDs and dissertations and lots of stuff on multiple intelligence theory. If you want to look up Virtuous Project, I think it's .com, virtuousproject.com, you'll find a bunch of stuff on the Virtuous Projects. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, okay.
Dave, did you want to go through the last
Yeah,
one?
I'll go through it and I'll do a quick sketch. The last big piece is EI, emotional intelligence. There's a lot of talk about that now. And there's a lot of talk about, you know, how we need that in the workplace, and it's good for people to develop that. And so, you know, I did a lot of work on this, a lot of thinking about this, a lot of making sense of this. And it kind of goes all the way back to Fritz Perls, if any of you are old enough to remember him. And, you know, Gestalt therapy verbatim. He was a part of a think tank in California many, many years ago. You know, they were smoking interesting stuff and experimenting with peyote. They were doing all kinds of interesting things in this think tank. But he was the really one who sort of made sense of emotion and gave us a real sense of emotional literacy. And he did psychodrama, and he would find all kinds of ways to exaggerate emotions. But the really key thing for me was he boiled it down that, you know, in the human physiology, there's 4 basic emotions, okay? And we've got a lot of other variations, and we have a lot of other language, and a lot of subtlety. But if you're angry, and you're really angry, and if you pause for a moment and remember the last time you were really angry, you know, how your face was, and how your lips were, and how your breathing was, and how your pulse was, and the chemistry in your blood, right? It's a very distinct physiological state, anger. And if we just look at sadness, and if you remember the last time you cried and you were really sad and really hurt, really upset, and you think about like the sound of crying, or if you think of a child crying, the facial expression of crying, the movement of the diaphragm and the breath. So sadness is distinctly different from anger as a physiological condition, okay? And the other one is fear. And, you know, we can talk about fight, and we can talk about flight, and we can talk about freeze, and there's lots of ways to look at fear. But you've been in situations in your life when you've been really afraid, okay? And so you know how that feels. Maybe you don't breathe at all. Maybe your blood goes to your feet. Maybe you faint. Maybe you pass out. Maybe you tremble. Maybe your lips shake, your hands shake. You have no strength. You have no energy. Or you fight. You know, it can go either way. And then if you look at the last one is joy or happiness, okay? A lot of the work I do with people in multiple intelligences, because I do a lot of coaching, and so I teach a lot of this stuff to people, is emotions are very raw and very real and very human. And we all have developed these for our protection and for our safety and for our guidance, okay? So if you just look at this little picture I drew here, if you think of this as just a map of your emotional world, you know, you hang this on the fridge and you say, well, I was a little angry today, and maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, how angry was I? Oh, I was a 5 or a 7 or an 11. Or I was afraid in that situation, but on a scale of 1 to 10, what was my level of fear? Or I'm feeling a little sad today. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's my level of sadness? But you can use this as a way to begin to talk about your emotion, you know, in your family, in your relationship with people you're closest to. And it gives them a sense of where you are and what's going on. Now, the big problem that I see is that fear, sadness, and anger, fear has now become anxiety. It's become a medical condition, and you need a prescription for that. And if you're sad at all, well, then maybe you're depressed, then you need an antidepressant. And if you really get angry and tell the truth about your situation and how you really feel about it, well, you might have to go for anger reduction therapy. So they've medicalized all of these emotions, right? To the point where people are terrified to have any emotion. So they shut down, they back up, they back off, they go away, they hang up, they walk out, they do anything except experience genuine emotion. Now, if you were in a self-healing process, a wellness program, a therapeutic process, if you remove the fear and you remove the sadness and you remove the anger, what's left is joy, right? And for me, joy is like the default condition of the soul. It's the default condition in well-being. And a lot of what we aspire to is that. But learning to experience this, breathe into this, feel this, share this, it's just a growth and development process. I mean, every teenager struggles with this. And when you can help people, you know, be authentic and be real and be genuine about those emotions, then they get pretty healthy pretty quick. You know, a whole bunch of other contexts in their life. I have this little dot in the center. Okay. And that you want to do a little 2-minute meditation with me? Yeah? Just real quick, and this will be the last thing we do tonight. Okay.
That's a nice way to end off, actually.
Sorry?
That would be a nice way to end off.
Okay, so you have to close your eyes. And please don't peek, because I'm going to have mine open, so I can tell if you're cheating. Okay, Karen? So just close your eyes, and I'm going to take you on a little journey, just for a few minutes, okay? So relax your feet. I'll do this quickly. Normally, I would do this over 10, 12 minutes, but I'm going to give you the abridged version. So just take a few deep breaths the way James just taught you how, and relax your feet, and relax your shins and your calves, and all the way up to your knees. And just, let your belly relax, and let your diaphragm relax, and just be one with yourself. Breathe. Relax your butt, your pelvic area, and your lower back. Relax your upper back. Just bring your focus to those areas as I mentioned them. Relax your shoulders and your chest. Relax your stomach. Relax your upper arms and your lower arms. Relax your hands and fingers. Breathe. Just being loving and gentle with yourself. And relax your neck and the back of your head, the top of your head. Relax your forehead and your face, your jaw. Relax your eyes and the space between your eyes. And now I want you to, in your mind, in your memory, in your mind's eye, go to a place that you might remember from your childhood, someplace outside in nature, a place where you felt safe, secure, grounded, connected to the earth. It might be a field or a meadow or a garden or a forest or by the ocean or a lake or a stream. And just find one. Pick a good one. And when you find it, just notice what's to your left. Notice what's to your right. Notice how you feel in this place and breathe it in. Take it into your lungs, into your blood. Take it out to all your cells. And just be in this place. I'm going to call this a peaceful place. This is your peaceful place. And just be in the moment. Okay, so now slowly come back to the room. You can come back now, it's okay. Okay, so let's call that your peaceful place, okay? Let's call that an inner resource. When you're really messed up, stressed out, you can just you can go there, right? Because you know where it is, and you know how to do it, and you know how to get there. So can we test it? Okay, so I'm gonna count to 3, and you're just gonna go back all by yourself. 1, 2, 3. Okay, guys. Should I say good night now? All right, so come on back. And I'll just have one last little piece and then we'll wrap it up. So given this diagram, if you think of this peaceful place that's right in the center here, okay? When you're way over here in fear or anger or sadness, you can always come back here. Got it? You can always just close your eyes, even if you're in a meeting and you're all stressed out, you can just kind of close your eyes and come back here. And know that that's your center, that's your balance, that's the anchor, you know, for your emotional intelligence, your emotional map. We all get angry. We all have sadness. We all have fear. We're all human beings, okay? But so that just gives you a system to self-regulate at a higher level. And then live happily ever after. So are we good, Marlene?
Yes, thank you very much. That was really interesting.
Okay.
And it was
My
wide range.
pleasure.
There was something for everyone there.
That was fun. I really enjoyed sharing that with you guys. So thanks for, you know, being in the listening.
David,
Yeah.
do you have time to take any questions or comments, or if
Sure,
anybody,
yeah.
if anybody
Yeah.
has anything to say, or I know it's getting late where you're at, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Acknowledgements are always welcome.
Okay, wow. I'm acknowledging you're a wonderful public speaker who draws people in and captures their attention, and anyways, so thank you so much. DK.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, David. Yeah, thanks. Great question. Oh, great presentation. I'll just try and be really quick. You're talking about parables as related to like the Virtues Project. Do you think, in your opinion, do you think Aesop's fables would be a good source of parables?
You could use that with younger kids. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you can look at it and you can say, okay, what are the good things that are going on here? Or what are the strengths, or what are the character traits? Or, you know, if we look at these characters, what makes it possible for them to do what they do, achieve what they achieve, be who they are, you know? Okay. But it's good for children to be able to look at literature and kind of deconstruct, you know, because they're stories, and stories are made up of characters, right? And what are the character strengths and what are the character challenges, right? What is this, you know, the bad guy? Well, what's his challenge by way of a virtue? It's fun to have them look at that in children's literature.
Thanks. With that, I yield.
Okay. Thank you, DK. Anybody else?
James?
Yes, David, I just wanted to thank you for the incredible insight, as you almost helped me to understand education and personality types from a holographic perspective, because you're looking at the same thing, but when you look at it from different angles, you see something different, which is really incredible. And I also want to acknowledge and thank you for your excellent delivery, because no matter what message that we deliver, when we deliver it in a certain way, and you did it with confidence and most important, authenticity, that really gets us to go bring it from the brain and down to the heart. So I really want to thank you for that. And with that, I yield.
Thank you, James. That's fabulous.
Thanks, James. Brian?
Yeah, in the last portion, you were talking about emotions.
Yes.
And some people, they're trying to hide their emotions for fear of being diagnosed with some sort of a problem. Now, I just wanted to get your perspective on a thought that I've always had in my life. As we sit in our emotions and we go down, and then it's like a roller coaster. We go down and we go up, and we go down and we go up, but you'll never reach those real highs unless you hit a real low. In order to feel those highs, you have to feel those lows too. So you don't want to hinder your emotions, because it might take away the high points of it too. So that's what I just wanted your insight into that.
Well, you know, children do this all the time. They're dancing and squealing and giggling and happy, and 2 minutes later, they're bawling their eyes out. They're all sad and hurt and upset. And 3 minutes later, they're terrified and full of fear. And it's like a roller coaster of emotion. with little kids just all day long, nonstop. And that's how they learn. That's how they develop, right? And they don't hold back. They don't self-censor or regulate it or any of that. They just go for it. And so, so yeah, we can learn from them. You know. Yeah.
I just wanted to emphasize that it's important that you don't try to hide the low points, because that might take away from your high points.
You know, that's what Fritz Perls used to do. He would have people in a session and he would say, you feel sad? Okay, go a little deeper into that. You know, you feel like crying? Okay, cry some more. And explore the depth of it to find out what's there. You know, because it's always a message from ourselves to ourselves about ourselves, you know. And when you're willing to allow yourself to just explore it a little more deeply, you won't crack up, you won't fall apart, you won't become unglued. You'll just learn something. You'll have an insight. They call it a breakthrough in some circles. You know?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love that. It's always a message from ourselves to ourselves for ourselves. Is that what you said?
About ourselves. About ourselves.
ourselves.
Like from ourselves to ourselves, about ourselves. Just like a dream.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
David,
Thanks. While I have the mic, I want to.
Sorry,
Thank
Armando.
you.
Go ahead. Go
Can I
ahead, V, and then
dive in
I'll.
real. Sweet. Thank you. Just quick thanks to. I feel I want to acknowledge the kindness and the generosity that you're giving so much information to us tonight. That you've like found along your path and your whole life.
Yeah.
It feels like you're in a space where you can be that generous, and it feels like you're also lighthearted within this information, and you know how to move with it and answer questions and receive people's questions. So I really appreciate the example that you are of someone who's passionate about something and sharing that. So thank you.
Yeah, and that's it, right? Like we get to a stage in our lives where, you know, we want to make a contribution, make a difference, give something back, you know. Yeah, and it's nice. We've learned to be stingy with our knowledge, you know, in our materialistic society, unfortunately, you know. But there's an infinite amount of it to go around, you know. So, Armando, I think you were going to say something. Thank you, V.
Yes, thank you, David. I wanted to acknowledge what came up for me around what you've presented tonight, and kind of your experience is that my feeling is that you've found something that you're passionate about, and you've moved forward, and you've taken a risk, and you've shared it with your students in your career, and you've done that over and over and over again. And so I feel inspired by that. So thank you. Thanks so much for tonight.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Norma Jean, over to you. Are we done? Enough? I can't hear you. Sorry.
It looks like there's a couple more questions.
Simon,
a
couple more. Okay, sorry, I can't see them, so I don't know. Go ahead.
And I'll read you some comments in the chat too after Simon is finished.
Okay. Simon, go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I had a very powerful day today, and with everything that's going on right now with the trucker convoy to Ottawa, and we had students write letters to them, and I delivered some letters and gifts and things like that over to an area in Ontario. And this was such a perfect way to end my day, because I always enjoy these meetings.
Yeah.
And the multiple intelligence theories, and you know, different types of learners. Like, we're crafting a program for our school that includes these different things, and I'm working closely with one person that talks about these feelings through stories and through animals. but there were some things that I got from just your energy and some of the things that you shared that were really powerful. And yeah, I'm also inspired. So I just wanted to express my gratitude and really, tell you, little things, that pebble in the water, and it trickles out and spreads and creates so much change. So I mean, you're impacting me, and then I'm going to try to impact more, and they're going to impact others. So thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's great, Simon. Yeah, I love that idea. That's what we do as teachers, right? Pebble in the water. Good stuff.
I think that was it, Mary. Nobody else has their hand up that I see. Marianne, did you want to do something with the notes or the chat? I mean, and then we'll wrap.
I remember a few people posted some comments I wanted to pass on to you, David.
Oh, okay.
They said thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you for the last meditation. And Melody, thank you for all the important information. And yeah. Those were the comments directly to you. So I just wanted to give you a big heartfelt thank you for joining us. And
Yes,
you're a great storyteller, and I love hearing great storytellers. And even though I heard a lot of this before, I actually thought of new connections hearing it the second time. So thank you again for that.
Yeah, knowledge is organic.
Yeah, I second that. I made a lot of connections as well. Just going, oh yeah, like sometimes we were doing things without realizing we're doing things.
Yes.
And we're working with children and stuff. It's like, hey, good on me. I was doing that and I didn't even know it. you put a definition around it. So thank you for that.
Perfect.
I hope you'll come back to our think tank, David. We'd love to have you back anytime, every time.
Well, here I am. Just invite me.
I sure will. I'll add you to our mailing list. And anybody else, actually, that if you're new here tonight, it would be awesome if you put your email address in the chat, and then I will add you to the email list that I send out once a week, just to say, hey, we're having a meeting, and if we have a guest or if we have a topic that we're going to talk about. Bye, James. Thanks very much. Then I can just add you to it. David, I have yours, so you don't have to worry about that. But anybody else, if you just wanted to add it, then you'll always know what we're doing. And I just wanted to remind everybody too that this is the National Education Think Tank, but as the provinces are getting ratified and the committees, the counties are working on their ratification papers. They're all forming their own education committees as well, provincially and county. And so if you wanted to get involved in education in your province or in your county and really have an effect on how it's going to be shaped, I encourage you to do that. And you, Marianne, do you know if on the Life Force Canada website they have the list of counties? Because I don't know, I just know where mine is. Yeah, but you could find out easy enough anyways. And certainly all the provinces are listed there, all the plant councils. So we really encourage everybody to get involved. And again, I'll just reiterate that we launched the education portal this week. It is up and running. It's fantastic. Marianne did an amazing job designing it, and Jade and Dustin worked really hard on putting it together. So anybody who has a service that they want to offer on there, as far as educating our youth and children, or if you have resources that you want to offer, you can post an offering post on there or submit an offering post. Or if you are looking, if you're a parent and you're thinking about stepping out of the public school system, or you already have, but you're looking for resources in a certain area, or maybe you need a teacher to teach a certain area, you can put a search post on there. And as well, we also have a blog section, and we're always looking for people that want to write a blog for us and tell us a little bit about your experiences. Natasha, we'd love to hear something from you, from your Roots and Branches Forest School. It sounds amazing. And we have a section in there that is links to resources, and we're currently building that, right? So if you have a great resource, and David gave us some tonight, just send us an email and let us know, and we'll put it on the site so that other people can find it as well. Marianne's saying, if you're a teacher or educator and you want to offer classes or courses, or if you're looking for education for children on lots of subjects. And Natasha, I don't know if you're reading the chat, but Marianne's asking if she can interview you for an article. So maybe, did you put your email in there, Natasha? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I did. Can I just ask a quick question?
Of course, of course.
We're just starting our education committee in our area. So I'm just wondering who across Canada already has been doing this, because there's no sense of us, you know, starting from the beginning if people already have something laid out that we can look at and contribute or modify, or is there like a place that's already existing that we can connect with?
I'm gonna have unless I turn your mic off. Okay. As far, I don't know about every single province, every single county. I think that we're all kind of in the same boat, Natasha, is things are just starting up as far as committees in most of the areas go, right? Whether it's education or agriculture, like education seems to be taking a while to get off the ground. And so the think tank, the national think tank, hasn't really been about putting together, you know, a model. It's been more about, well, let's explore what's out there and hear from people that are doing things innovatively and sharing their experiences, and then sharing that with the committees across Canada. But Marianne and I have talked about, you know, how can we get the committee leads together, maybe even right before this meeting, just for half an hour to talk about, well, how can we start fleshing this out? But we haven't had any real direction as of yet, how that's going to look. Is that a fair assessment, Marianne?
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, Norma Jean and I have a meeting with Karen Klassen on Saturday, where I'm hoping to talk about some of this. You know, what is the scope? What are the parameters? What is our role? And what is the extent of our authority to set our own charted directions for each committee? Because it sounds like, you know, we start to go off in one area and then we kind of get curtailed and there's, oh no, don't do that. It's like, oh, okay, well, what can we do? I would love to develop this into the foundation for all of the education committee leads and to support all of the plan councils who have to start up their own education committees as well, in terms of, you know, formal support, like not telling people how to do it or what to do it, but we have such great ideas coming through these think tanks. We write them up in articles, we make videos, but then they're kind of lost. I'd like to bring it back around with an annual conference or a symposium or something where we could then discuss some of the emerging trends and have some guest presenters and then talk afterwards, you know, what can we do with this? Is there room, or explore the possibilities for how to implement this? And we don't have to all do the same thing, but it'd be great to at least share that information of how people would like to implement all this information. So we'll see if that's within our scope to do. And if so, we'll let you know.
Yeah, that's exciting.
I think, yeah, sort of that idea of having sort of a loose framework and using it, but then having all kinds of things to draw from. And, you know, your situation where you're located might be different than mine in Vancouver, right? So you might want to incorporate more of this and less of that. And so on the portal, if you have a look too, you'll see there's an opportunity for educators to post workshops and